WNBA shockwave. Sophie Cunningham's knee injury ignites outrage, puts the fever under the microscope, and raises urgent questions about player safety across the league. If you care about player safety and accountability in the WNBA, don't just watch, join the conversation. Drop your take in the comments, share this with another fan, and subscribe so you don't miss the updates. Should there be a suspension here? Did the officials lose control of this game? Your voice matters, and we're reading every single comment. Let's get to the moment that pushed this season to a boiling point. Sophie Cunningham was left on the floor clutching her knee, visibly in pain, tears in her eyes, as cameras caught Lexi Hull stepping in to check on her. It was a jarring scene, one that instantly pulled everyone out of the game and into a much bigger discussion. On the other side of the frame was Bria Hartley, the player involved in the collision. Within minutes, social media lit up with claims that Cunningham wasn't just unlucky, she was targeted. Replays showed Hartley sliding across, making hard contact, and crashing into Cunningham's leg. The sequence wasn't subtle, and the reaction wasn't either. Fans called it reckless. Others went further, accusing Hartley of intentionally going after Cunningham. What's undeniable is that Cunningham went down hard, and the building went silent as she held her knee. Moments like this are the ones no league wants. They don't just change games, they change seasons. This might have been a tough season already, but this moment hit like a hammer. The Indiana Fever have been riding an emotional roller coaster for weeks, and this spiraling mix of injuries, officiating controversies, and tense finishes has created what many are calling a season from hell. The consistency isn't there. The cohesion isn't there. On the worst nights, it doesn't even look like they're pulling in the same direction. And then came this. To be clear, this isn't a "we lost because of an injury" narrative. At one point, the lead was in double digits. This game was winnable on merit. But the injury overshadowed everything else because of how it happened and who it happened to. Sophie Cunningham isn't a fringe piece. She's a tone setter, a voice. The kind of player who does the ugly work, competes every possession, and holds her group accountable. When she's on the floor, you feel her presence. And when she's not, you feel the absence immediately. As the sideline tried to regroup, one thing was obvious. The frustration wasn't contained to the bench. Fans and players alike were furious, and even the broadcast seemed stunned. Cameras caught a visibly emotional Stephanie White after the game, a look that said this wasn't any ordinary night. Whether you support the Fever or not, you could sense the collective anger about what just happened on that floor. It wasn't just pain. It was disbelief, and it was directed squarely at the contact that left Cunningham in agony. Then came the family. That's where the story really caught fire. Cunningham's sister, Lindsay, didn't hold back. Her message to the league was pointed. Focus less on fining players for criticizing poor officiating and more on hiring officials who can enforce a consistent standard and protect athletes. Those words landed with force because they echoed what fans have been saying for weeks. Too many hard hits, too few whistles, and too little accountability. From there, things escalated. Cunningham's mother, Paula, called out Bria Hartley directly, saying this isn't an isolated situation. She described a pattern and accused Hartley of putting careers at risk with the way she plays. When family gets involved, you know it's not just about box scores anymore. It's personal, and it raises the stakes for everyone. No matter what your team colors are, nobody wants to see a player carried off, especially after contact like that. The response from fans was immediate. Thousands of comments calling for a suspension, a review, and a clear statement from the league about where the line is and how they plan to enforce it. Let's talk about the sequence itself. The clip shows Hartley sliding over and falling into Cunningham's knee. Slow it down, and it looks like all of her momentum goes right into that joint. The angle makes you wince. In real time, the collision is even more violent. Whether it was intentional or reckless is the debate swirling across timelines, but the result is the same. Cunningham stayed down, grabbed her leg, and left the game in tears. There wasn't a quick whistle. There wasn't an immediate flagrant review. And that only inflamed the conversation further. This wasn't the first time Hartley was at the center of controversy this season, either. Fans have circulated multiple clips as Exhibit A for a pattern of overly physical play. In one, she appears to yank Angel Reese by the ponytail, a move that sparked a heated confrontation. In another, Becca Allen went down hard after contact near the head, with Hartley accused of instigating the fall by grabbing up top. Whether you interpret those moments as malicious or merely out of control, they've left a mark. Opposing fans describe it as a track record. Supporters argue she plays hard and walks the edge. But after Cunningham's injury, the patience for that conversation is short. People want answers and consequences. Here's where the officiating enters the spotlight. In a professional league, the expectation is clear. Dangerous contact is penalized, fast. You don't let a game simmer at 200 degrees. You cool it down with a whistle, a review, and, if needed, an ejection. But on this night, the response was too slow for many viewers, and the penalty, if any, felt insufficient to the moment. When fans say the referees lost control, this is what they mean. Not that they missed a travel or a hand check. That they allowed a game to drift into a level of physicality where someone gets hurt and the tone never resets. The outrage has even escalated into calls for a broader, formal inquiry into the league's officiating culture. Language like civil rights investigation, used by some supporters who feel players aren't being protected equally or adequately. That's the temperature right now. You don't get that kind of rhetoric unless fans are convinced the system is broken and the leadership isn't acting with urgency. Add in the broader injury picture and you start to see the full storm. This season has felt like a grind through bruises, sprains, and timeouts for treatment. Half the league seems taped up. Every night brings another body blow. Fans are fed up with seeing rugby scrums break out under the rim without the
fouls to match this SNT basketball anymore is a line we've heard more than once. And the calls are getting louder. Set a clear standard. Enforce it every night. Put player safety first. Full stop. Now, there is the question nobody wants to face. What is the actual injury? The on-court footage and a few medical observers speculating about the patella, either a kneecap fracture or a patellar tendon injury, based on where Cunningham grabbed and the way her leg reacted. Others wondered about a ligament. Without an official report, everything is a guess, but the fear is real, a season-ending injury. You could feel it in the building. What we know is that it wasn't a routine tweak. The pain was immediate. The reaction was raw. And the stakes are massive for a team that depends on Cunningham's energy and tua presenze. For the favor, this has become the season of what next. From uneven performances to crashing fourth quarters to, now, a star player going down in a moment everyone is still replaying in their heads. This stretches the feel of a nightmare that won't end. One possession it's a turnover. The next it's a rebound over the top. Then a missed rotation. And then, just when it looks like there might be a push, there is an injury that knocks the team's heartbeat off the floor. You can call that lack of leadership, chemistry, cohesion, there is a truth in all of it. But when a player like Cunningham is removed from the equation, every single one of those issues intensifies. What makes it even more complicated is that not everything was bleak in the game itself. Lexi Hull nailed a massive three late that broke the contest open. Aliyah Boston turned in a workhorse double-double, 14 points, 13 boards, and a dead 5 assists. A line that speaks to her impact in both directions. Those are winning plays by winning players. And yet, nobody left the arena celebrating the box score. The conversation was locked on the collision, the no-call, and the fallout. The locker room mood matched that tone. It was frustration mixed with fatigue. You could sense it in the words from those around the team. We were up 17 before the injury and we weren't going to pin the loss on that play. That is what professionals say. They stand on the effort. But it doesn't make the moment any smaller. The truth is, no one wants to see someone else buckle under another player's fall. And even if the lead was safe before it happened, the injury flipped the night from a routine finish into a crisis that could reshape the next month, or longer. Then there is the elephant everyone keeps circling. What happens to Bri Hartley now? Fans are calling for a suspension. Some are calling for more than that. The union will have its say. The league office will review the film. A precedent will be cited. But there is the bottom line. Most people don't want a headline, they want a principle. If the WNBA wants to send a message that this isn't acceptable, there is a clear path. Review the play quickly, be transparent about the evaluation, and issue a decisive ruling that aligns with the stated values of player safety and fair play. Anything less will deepen the frustration in a season already teetering. And we cannot ignore the other name hovering over everything. Caitlin Clark. The most hyped rookie in years. The ratings engine. The face of the future. She has barely been available at times this season, and questions keep surfacing about when she'll be fully back, what her workload should look like, and whether the league is doing enough to protect its marquee talents. She wasn't the story of the night, but she is a part of the bigger story every night. If your biggest draw and one of your best competitors are both sidelined or compromised, what exactly are you selling to fans? That is not an indictment of effort. It's a call for leadership. There is even talk from some corners about legal action if the injury diagnosis confirm the worst. Families mentioning lawyers. Supporters calling for lawsuits. Observers wondering about league liability if officials allow games to drift past the line of safe competition. To be clear, as of now, there is no confirmed legal filing. But the fact that people are even discussing litigation around WNBA officiating and player safety should be sounding alarms in every corner of the league office. When the culture slides to that point, credibility becomes the very thing at risk. Let's pull back for a moment and talk about what this means for the Fever's season. With Cunningham potentially out for an extended stretch, the question becomes, who fills that void? This isn't a box score. It's a heartbeat. It's the huddles, the closeouts, the loose balls, the switches in space, the willingness to take a charge and then talk on defense the next possession. Those aren't optional in this league. Those are the constants that keep a team afloat when shots aren't falling. You can patch minutes with signings. Harry McDonald's name has even been floated as a plug-in during injury waves, but you don't replace the person who sets your competitive temperature. And yet the games don't stop. That is the cruel reality of pro basketball. Next opponent. Next travel day. Next scout. Players have to turn the page while the conversation outside the locker room keeps pointing back to the moment that appended everything. That is a heavy lift for any roster, let alone one that is already dealing with lineup churn and inconsistency. The coaching staff will preach execution. Eyes up. Trust the pass. On the glass. But without Cunningham's presence, those words take on a different weight. So where does the WNBA go from here? Start with clarity. If there is a standard for flagrant contact, publish it. If there is a threshold for suspension tied to dangerous plays, air pulls, head grabs, low bridge collisions, reckless slides into lower extremities, say it out loud and enforce it consistently. If video review is the mechanism, then lean into it. Use the monitor. Communicate with the arena. Explain the ruling. Fans don't agree with every decision, but they respect transparency. There is also a serious conversation to be had about off-ball contact. The tagging, the hip checks, the grabs on curls, the chicken wings on the block. That is where a lot of these escalations begin. Clean those areas up, and you reduce the flashpoints that lead to nights like this. We've already seen other leagues adjust points of emphasis to curb tech fouls and above the shoulders contact. The WNBA can do the same with lower body safety and air pulling, which has no place in the game, ever. Because that is one part of why Hartley is under such a bright light right now. The clip with Angel Reese, and in the air, body turning, was shared everywhere. The Becca Allen fall left a bad taste. Had Cunningham clutching her knee, and you've got a pattern in the eyes of the public, fair or not. If the league believes there is no pattern, it needs to say so and explain why. If the league sees what everyone else sees, then it has to respond decisively.